Hi, and welcome to 6 Elements to Business Success. This is Susan Burns, and with me today is Deanna. Pronounce your last name, be Deanna.
Hello? Susan?
Deanna, do you want to pronounce your last name? I can
Yeah,
never
I
pronounce
couldn't hear you. It went
Oh,
muted or something. I couldn't hear you. Sorry. Say it again. Sorry.
hi. Welcome to 6 Secret Elements to Business Success. This is Susan Burns, and with me is
Deanna Fjelsted. Okay, now I can hear you.
All right. So we're going to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us. And I want to congratulate you on making the time to go through and learn about the basic foundational elements to making your business a success. A lot of times people start a business and they're very excited and it's one thing after the other. And planning and going through some of the basic foundational things isn't always the most fun, but it's so critical and it will make your business more fun in the long run. So today, Deanna from Sole Purpose and Susan, that's me, from Small Business Legal School are going to talk to you about 6 secret elements to business success. Deanna has 3 and I have 3. So together we make 6. And without further ado, I am going to advance to the next screen. And, oops, there we go. And turn the controls over to Deanna. Whoever just logged in, could you please mute? Wait, there, I did. So, Deanna, you now have control of the keyboard.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I have control here. Sorry. All right. It's not letting me switch to the next slide.
So just let me know when you want to switch.
Sorry about that. What was that?
Just let me know when you want to switch.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to switch.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, well, I just wanted to introduce myself, and as far as who am I to tell you of who I am. My name is Deanna Fjelsted. I am the owner of Sole Purpose, certified business and life coach. And just recently, last year, I finished my book, The Follow Your Purpose, A Guide to Laying a Strong Business Foundation. So, and am certified in NLP, HNLP, and am a master hypnotherapist. So those are kind of some of the credentials, I guess, that you could say behind, but more importantly, really what's the real deal behind me is I am, it's a little slow here, I started a business with no plan and no strategy and nearly lost everything. So just to give you a little bit of a background on me, is that years ago I had a very successful, I've been in account management for years, and had a very successful business or built a business in the mortgage and financial industry, and built that business from the ground up. And really what I can attribute a lot of that success and everything to is I worked a lot with a law of attraction. I had my vision boards. I had Wayne Dyer right next to my desk, and I was really worked a lot, very hard to build that business. I had some very strong goals in mind and the tenacity to make that work. So really, I remember a specific day when I received my commission check and realized that, even though it looked like I was successful, there was something missing. So at that point, I knew that I had the financial resources to go back to school and pursue my passion, and that passion was to help people. So I went back to school, earned my certification in therapeutic coaching, which is all the fancy letters, but really what that is working with the subconscious mind and the belief system. So once I graduated from school, then I began my business Soul Purpose. And I really believed that because I had built a strong business before, I knew what it took. So with a lot of ego, I just went, a lot of people were saying, yeah, you need to have a business plan, you need to have goals, you need to have this. And even though I had it in my old business, for some reason that just didn't apply for this. So, but what had happened is by not having that, I really lost everything, or nearly lost everything. So I had to go back into what we'll just call the real world and go back into a business that, I was successful at before. But what happened is my dream never died. I couldn't let go of really what I wanted to do. So I knew that I had to figure out what went wrong or I'd have to give up on it. So I went back and started researching not only what makes a good business succeed, but also I had to evaluate some of my own beliefs and what it took and what I was bringing to the table that wasn't working. And that's what became my book, the Follow Your Purpose. So what I'm going to talk to today are really what I call the 3 secret elements, or the top secret elements that really I never had anybody that said to me in all the business planning and everything that was necessary. So what we're going to be talking about are the 3 secret elements, or the top, that is learning how to identify and eliminate the hidden obstacles, what is more powerful than your marketing, as well as why sometimes setting goals doesn't work. So to begin with, we're going to work with number 1, which is uncovering the hidden obstacles. So the first thing with that is what is important is, let's just pretend that we're going to be going on a trip. Most often I would think nowadays people have their GPS system. So if they're going somewhere, they'll type in the address or the destination of where they're wanting to go. But there's a key element and a key ingredient that you need that it asks for, and that is what your current location is. Because in order to plot the right route, you need to know where you're starting from. And oftentimes, and I know in my life and in the work that I'm doing with other people, that is one area that does happen to get missed, is that you need to know where everything stands in your life today, and you need to be honest about it. You can't pretend or ignore certain things and just pretend that that's not going to affect it, when really what I say is that it's really impossible in business to separate where you end and your business begins. And you can't build a business on a rocky foundation. So what you need to do, the first thing is really to evaluate where you are in all aspects of your life. The first one would, you can't start a business so looking at your business. So just really for that right now is just kind of looking at it is where it's today. Not looking to solve anything, but just to be honest and say, okay, this is where it's at, and just kind of lay everything out on the table. That one's really not too difficult at this point. The next one, which is a very key and critical item, would be your finances. So I encourage everybody to really take a look and have a very strong, knowledge of where everything is at with their own finances. And if it's something that you think that it's like, well, you know what, I know that there's certain things that I'm just not looking at, but that's okay, I'll deal with it later. I encourage you very strongly not to do that, because what you're trying to do is eliminate anything that may come back to sabotage you or your success in the future. So, and how you do everything is, or how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're really not great at managing your finances on your personal life, you can't expect that in your business that all of a sudden that isn't going to come into play. So making sure that you really have a good system and you know where you're at financially. because financial, mental energy to try to build a business with angst or anything regarding the finances is incredibly difficult. So making sure that that piece of it is something that you're very well versed on where you're standing. Plus it shows you where your relationship is with money. Now I can also tell you that nobody ever asked me when I was in any time, what is your relationship with money? And everybody has a relationship with money. So that is also a key area as far as that kind of uncovers what it is that you feel. If you're kind of in your finances, if you're really not dealing with it, that's a strong indication that maybe you have perhaps a dysfunctional relationship with money. In a business, if you're trying to grow it, it is something you're going to have to work with, and that's money. So another key area is your relationships, looking at all the key relationships in your life. And that goes from anybody that you really feel that you reach out to or that has, is involved with your life. That could be, spouses, significant others, children, parents, brothers and sisters, or even key friends. And what I'm asking you to do is just to kind of take a look at that and just to make sure that everybody that's in your life is, that you know exactly whether they're going to be a supportive in that, or maybe that would be something that you'd have to address that maybe they're not going to be as supportive. So how do you manage that relationship as you're trying to build your build your business? So that is I'm just going to tell you a really quick story about how that played out in a client of mine. She was doing everything in her power to do what was necessary to market. She had workshops that she was trying to fill. She was sending emails to market and everything, and nothing was working for her. And so I remember specifically the day that we sat down for one of our meetings, she was very angry and she frustrated, and she was like, I don't even know why I'm doing any of this. It's not working anyway. Well, after moving some energy, taking a little bit of walk, what we really came down to, what was happening is there was so much strain and stress that was being caused because of her relationship with her husband, that it was so much energy that needed to be cleared. It was so much that needed to be cleared because it was just too much that was being put into it, and it was basically all of her efforts were trying to make sure that the business was working because she didn't want to deal with her husband not supporting her. So once that was kind of cleared, it was amazing to see exactly how, once she kind of cleared that up, how just even the energy and how she was approaching her business changed, and things just started to open up. So that's a key area that you want to look at. Another area that you'd want to look at is would be your physical health. As far as, where are you at with your own physical health? Making sure that you're not ignoring some signs that it's like, you wake up in the morning, you're not really feeling all that good. Well, you're going to have to bring yourself to the table every single day of your life for your business. So making sure that you are honoring you and your health, make sure that that is going to support you going forward in your business. The next very important issue would also be your environment. And I can't speak enough to this one. Making sure that your environment that you go to work every day. Now that could be going to work in an office, or it could be going to work at your kitchen table. It could be going to work in your car. Anything that is going to be supporting you in your main environment, you want to make sure that it is that you have aligned that to be incredibly supportive. So even if you are working and you're going to work at your kitchen table, is that filled with clutter? Is it, anything, is it some place that you feel that you can really bring yourself, your best self to it, and it is going to support you? So really paying attention to all of those key, what do you see every day? What is your environment, and how is that going to support you? The next key area that I want you to look at is even your free time, your recreation and your free time. There have been times in my life where I have been what I call like a manic stage with my business, where I'm working so hard, and it's kind of like the male-female energy, that you're working so incredibly hard to make sure that you're doing the right marketing and you're doing everything, that you just don't even allow yourself the time or the space or permission to stop. And it has been the times that I have sat back and allowed the seeds that I have planted to really start to flourish that I've had the best growth within my business. So there has to be an equal balance of, pushing with your business, but also allowing yourself the time and the free time to be able to, to make sure that you are getting yourself, that you are recharging your own self and allowing that to happen. So just taking a look at each of these key areas in your life and just kind of asking the question, is everything aligned to support your growth? And I'm even going to offer you up a little bit of homework because, as my clients could tell you, that I really love homework. But to write down each of these key areas in your life and to determine a starting point and what, if anything, would need to change so that each area would support your growth. So just be aware. Bring it into your awareness and lay it out on the table and just make sure that you're acknowledging every area. Because, as I said, you don't want some of these areas to come back and try to sabotage your success in the future. You want to be proactive rather than reactive on any of these areas. So
I
that
just want
is number one.
Deanna, I just want to underscore what you're saying and just say that it's also important. I don't know where you were when I started my law practice, but everything you're talking about in starting a business is so important. And I never seem to be able to balance them all at the same time, but just being aware and thinking it through as you're advising people to do when starting a business, I think is so important. So great advice, and I totally agree with you.
Great, yep. And I think anybody that's been in the business for a while can see that there's, they are critical areas.
Mm-hmm.
So number two, what is more powerful than your marketing? So a lot of people, when they're starting their business, they are, it's like you need to, they just focus so much on the marketing, making sure that you have your website, making sure that you have your, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn, making sure that you're on all the social medias, and you can be absolutely bombarded with ways to make your business grow. But your mindset is more important than any of this because it is absolutely it's what I call the internal operating system of your business. And your mindset is basically what you believe to be true. So you can switch side here. So ask yourself the question, what do you believe to be true when it comes to the first thing, your worthiness to be successful? So when you look and you say to yourself, you know what, I see that the fact that I'm going to be, what successful looks like in your own mind. What does that look like? How do you feel about that? Because paying attention to exactly how you feel is going to be so important. So when you see yourself being incredibly successful, do you see all the people that are around you that are going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, you are, or do you feel like you're deserving of that success? Another would be your value. What is, your own value that you're bringing to the table? Do you believe that what you're offering has value? A lot of the times, especially, I can say that when it comes to promoting yourself, that is a big thing. It was much easier when I was building my business in the mortgage industry to stand behind a product than it was to ever stand behind myself and what the value that I was bringing to the table. And that took some time and some mindset shifts that I needed to work through to make sure that that I was, looking at those different things because that honestly, that could really make a difference in your marketing. Also receiving, we kind of brushed on this a little bit, but receiving money for your services. So what do you believe to be true when it comes to receiving money? Receiving is going to be a big part of everything that you're going to be doing in your business. You're going to be receiving clients. You're going to be receiving money. You're going to be receiving testimonials. You're just going to be receiving. And you need to be incredibly comfortable with the whole idea of receiving. I see it time and time again that people will undervalue or discount or give away their services for free because it's just uncomfortable to take money from people. Now, I can tell you that it doesn't take anybody to tell you that if you don't want to receive money for your services, if you have a challenge with that, it's going to be hard to grow a business to be a self-sustaining business. So I encourage you to work through that. Also, what do you believe to be true when it comes to your knowledge and expertise? Is that something, do you believe that what you're offering is something that people will want? And again, this is something that I have seen a challenge for people with my clients, that it's like, well, who am I to say? Who am I to tell people that, do I have enough value and do I have enough knowledge to really tell people what to do? So that's something that you really want to take into consideration is, what are you saying to yourself when it comes to your own knowledge and what you believe and what you're telling your clients. The next thing would be, and this one was a very difficult one for me, and I'll just tell you this, is being seen. I remember the first time I was having to post something on LinkedIn or post something regarding my business, regarding on Facebook or any type of social media. I can tell you I had some really strong voices in my head that that I felt were just in judgment of that. So it was really hard because it is hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to network. It's hard to just say, hey, you know what? I would like to talk to you about my services. But I can also tell you that you can't create a business and be invisible at the same time. It just doesn't work. So what do you need to do in order, how do you have to feel to be, to be seen? You are going to be, you have to be putting yourself out there in order to be marketing your service. And then also, what do you believe to be true when it comes to your belief that you will be successful? Do you believe that everything that you're going to do is going to create success for you? And if you're marketing and doing all this, but you can't even see yourself being successful and making a full-time income for it, that might be a little bit challenging. So those are the, so those are definite items to consider when it comes to, as far as your mindset. And I don't want to tell you, but like I said before, your mindset is like your internal operating system. So imagine that you're trying to run your business on an old system that's a dial-up system and an old computer that has a floppy disk. Chances are that it's not going to be that, that efficient. So make sure you can't operate on old and corrupt data, or even the best systems will fail. And just make sure that, when is the last time that you updated your system? So the mindset, and I don't want to tell you that all our beliefs are bad. Obviously you have some beliefs that are that have served you, and just make sure that what you're evaluating is your servicing your highest good. So what do you do if you feel that your mindset is not aligned? Just what you're saying. Pay attention to listen to yourself. When you're posting something on Facebook, when you're trying to reach out to somebody to talk to them about your services, how does that feel? What are you saying to yourself? Are you saying to yourself, well, they probably aren't going to want to hear what I'm saying? Those are definite things to pay attention to. So do your best to shift your thinking on that. Do what you can to shift it. Pay attention, acknowledge it, and shift it. Do everything that you can. Take back your power. Take back your power with your goal, and if necessary, seek help. Because that is something that you really, in growing a business, if your mindset isn't aligned, you're just going to be kind of banging your head up against a wall. So those are the things that I offer with that. The last thing is goals. I'm talking about goals and why they're important. Why are goals important? Well, everybody, you need to know where you're going in your life. I mean, that's just, goals are incredibly important. To tell you exactly where you're trying to get to in your life. If you have wishy-washy goals, you're going to get wishy-washy results. So if you're not setting the goals and setting exactly what you're looking for, it's going to be very hard to even know when you've achieved what you're looking to achieve. And I kind of like it to a thoroughbred horse, that if you set your goals, you know, if you look at what they do for thoroughbred horses, that they put blinders on them, and so that they're not distracted by all the different shiny objects. But if you have some very set and accountable goals, then you know exactly all the things that are going to be coming at you, that if it doesn't align with what you're really trying to achieve, it makes it easier to kind of let those things and not get distracted. But sometimes goals just don't work. And why is it that goals won't work? And if there is one thing that I can speak to, is that you're misaligning your values, misaligned with your values and your standards. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story about how that has played out in my life. I had, like I said, in my business with the financial goals and everything, is that I knew what it was like to be successful. But what I didn't align that with was my values and my own standards that I had for life. And one of my huge values is my family. I have 2 beautiful children, and I really like to spend time with them. But what was happening is that I didn't align, I did not align my values and my standards with that. So what I exposed myself to was the fact that it was, that I was taking calls at all hours, that it was, to me, I took calls at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it could be from a screaming client or a screaming, you know, this is a different, not in this industry, so don't think that my clients are screaming at me. But, you know, so that
unless they're so excited about a success, then they're screaming at you.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so yeah, so I didn't set those standards, that I was taking phone calls in the middle of dinner. And I can tell you, the paycheck was very nice, but what it was doing to my family life, it wasn't worth it. And if you ask my children, if they look back to that time, neither one of them would say that it was a grand time. But it was because I wasn't aligning. Even though I had all the goals, they weren't aligning with my values and my standards. And I am a firm believer that life will align you. So let's just say that your goal is the fact is that, you know what, you want to have a successful business, but maybe you only want to work part-time. Well, life will align you. If you're clear on what those goals are and you're aligning yourself with that, then life will support that, and then you can have that balance that you're looking for. But oftentimes we get sidetracked, or we get, you know, as far as, you know, with all the different, you know, things that are out there on the internet as far as what success looks like. But make sure that you're designing what success really looks like to you. Does success look like the fact that it's like, I have worked a full day, I'm making a good income for my family, but I'm still at my daughter's soccer game? You know, that may be successful, or maybe successful looks like something. But never operate off the shoulds of somebody else's life. I just had a client the other day that was just going crazy because she was just having a hard time working through some different, you know, it's like what the standards were that she had heard about in a different program that she was, and she just couldn't do some of the work. Well, really, when it came down to it, that wasn't the life that that wasn't the business she was trying to create. The business that she was trying to create didn't look anything like the business that somebody else was was having her create. So making sure that you're very clear on what the shoulds are, and not your ideas and not somebody else's. And sometimes those goals. And also, if you're looking at sometimes the fear of that, like in my situation, I had to work through now being successful, what successful looked like. I had to be very clear because I was afraid of it. I was afraid that my life was going to turn out again like what it looked like before. So just making sure that that's something that you're aligned with. So the 3 secret, just to recap very quickly here, the 3 secret elements, the biggest thing that what I'm telling you is it's about honesty, is that you need to be honest with yourself. You need to lay everything out on the table. So you need to know your current location and lay everything out on the table. Make sure that the key areas of your life are going to support your highest vision for your life. Also knowing evaluate your mindset. Making sure that you listen to yourself and what you're saying, and making sure that what do you really believe, and making sure that that's going to support you. And align with your goals with your values, making sure that you set your goals on what you really want, not what you should want. So if it sounds a little bit like that's a lot of information and how do you begin and everything, if you're looking for kind of a fast and easy approach to it, I want to say that help is on its way. So I just wanted to give you a brief as far as what my programs are. If you're looking to creating the business of your dreams, I do offer a 4-month program, which is about 25 hours of coaching. And I like it to like building a house, is that what we do is we create the blueprint for your business and what it looks like. So we work with the business plan, your mission, your vision, your objectives, your strategy, from everything from financial to marketing, and we develop that strategy for your business. And then we work with laying the foundation and eliminating the obstacles. So that's where we work with a lot of the mindset as far as your values, your beliefs, and what's going to support you. And, you know, kind of like tilling up a soil. What's going to be the richness that you're going to offer, and maybe there's some rocks or something that you want to just get rid of. So it's really laying a very strong foundation. And then we work to build the structure, creating the goals and the standards to live by every day, and living with action, but also intention. Because you can have all the action plans that you want in the world, but that doesn't offer much inspiration. So how do you live with intention every day to make sure the spirit of your business is coming through with everybody that you meet? And so this also includes 6 hours of private one-on-one life coaching. So we add the life coaching piece into that, that if there's any issues or obstacles that come up along the way, that we can work through that, even if it's, you know, relationships, or if it's something else, that I offer 6 hours of just kind of, off the beaten path type of things that we can work through. And those 6 hours can be used during the 4-month program, or you can bank them and you can use them at a later time. And then there's also ongoing 30-minute monthly check-ins. So I'll give you my contact information. There is my website is soulpurpose.co. It's co, not com. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. There's a lot of information. There's some free guides and everything on my website. So feel free to contact me. So at that point, I am going to turn it over to Susan, who can give you the next 3 secret elements to business success. Take it away, Susan.
Thanks so much, Deanna. That was great. And I want you to feel free to chime in at any point when you have something relevant to offer, because I think we really are talking about the same thing in different elements. As Deanna is talking about the 3 secrets for success from a business foundational standpoint, and aligning your goals with what you're doing and keeping your higher purpose in mind, I talk about the 3 secrets for business success from a legal perspective. And the reason I do this is because what you do matters, and that ties in with exactly what Deanna was talking about, and that is we're all here for a reason. And so what you do in your business life matters. Part of your success is dealing with the elements that Deanna just discussed, and another part of your success is making sure that you that you focus on and pay attention to the legal elements of your business. A lot of people disregard this part of their business. So like Deanna, who am I to talk to you? I'm Susan Burns. I am a professional speaker, and I'm also a champion of big ideas. As I was just saying, what you do matters. So I think if you're building a business, if it's worth building, it's worth protecting. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I call myself the go-to business lawyer because I love working with all aspects of small business, the legal issues related to that, and sometimes the business matters too. I have been in practice for over 30 years. One of the things that I found is people coming into my office when it was a little bit late. In other words, they would be in a situation dealing with something difficult that if they would have come to me in the beginning, it would have taken a little bit of time and a little bit of money, maybe more than they wanted to spend, but it would have been easy to deal with at that point. Now when they come to me, it's much more expensive to fix it or to figure it out. Or in some cases, I talk about one of the clients who actually didn't become a client because it was too late to help her. Her business simply went under, and that was after 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears by something that was totally avoidable. So I kept seeing this, and I was so frustrated. I was like, why don't you come and see me earlier? And then what I realized is it's not because people going into business don't want to do things properly. It's either because they don't know that there are legal issues that impact them, or it's because they think they're going to save money and they don't understand that, yes, it does cost money, but a little bit of investment now pays off big time later. It's like if you don't brush your teeth every day, you're going to lose your teeth. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention. So I decided to start Small Business Legal School, and that's smallbusinesslegalschool.com, as a way to deliver the basic foundation of legal information in an easy, bite-sized way to learn it, so that you can learn basics about your business and what the legal issues are that impact it. So I love doing webinars like this and speaking to groups and working on Small Business Legal School. And so as I told Deanna the other day, I think I'm crazy to think that I can cover these issues in 30 minutes or less. I'm going to do my best. The very first thing that you want to consider when you're starting a business is to be deliberate about choosing your business name. And a lot of people think, oh, yeah, well, it's this. This is what I want. That's easy. Why do you want to be deliberate about it? Because it will save you money. And that impacts your business big time. So if you don't pay attention in the beginning, you may later have to go. The consequences are that you might have to rebrand and change your name and do everything all over after you've spent all the time on sales, marketing, and everything like that. So how do you avoid having to do that? First, these are non-legal elements of choosing a name, but you want to choose something that's distinctive, easily spelled and pronounced, easy to remember, and you also want to think about other possible meanings or perceptions of your name, especially if acronyms, or if you're going to do business globally, translating into another language. You've all heard stories about companies that have a name and then they go to do business in another country and it means something like you're stupid or something like that. So you want to make sure that you think through the consequences of that, and you want to distinguish yourself from competitors. A lot of people come into me and say, oh, well, I want to start this business, but there's a lot of competition. I'm like, yeah, great, bring it. Distinguish yourself, do it better, or do something different. So after considering those things, you want to search for any conflicts. So search the web, search the names that you have in mind, or anything similar. Go on the Secretary of State's website and just search the database for the names, similar names. If you don't see any conflicts, then you want to go to the address that I have here, the website address, www.uspto.gov, trademarks. You want to do a trademark clearance search, and there's a database called TESS, that's capital TESS. So you type in the name, and then it will come up with this list of if anybody has that name or anything similar. whether they're still using it, whether they've abandoned it. And if you don't get anything, that's a pretty good sign. It's not a for sure that you can trademark, but it's a good step to take, and it's a good sign that you're cleared for takeoff. Not 100%, but it's just one step. So, and you want to search domain names, and you want to search the domain name that you want to use, like smallbusinesslegalschool.com, but you might search other things like smallbizlegal or SBLS or whatever name you're thinking of. You want to just think through what else could be out there and if it would be confused with your business, because you don't want to spend a lot of time in marketing and have somebody else have a similar name and all the business go to them. That would be horrid and expensive and not successful. So, and you can also use the Whois database, Network Solutions Whois, to see what other registrations are. And so keep in mind also that your business name will serve likely as your domain name and your email address, your business email addresses. And so the other place you want to search is all the social media outlets. So Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Tumblr, and Pinterest, and there's probably a billion others that aren't listed here. But so you want to make sure, just check. Just because somebody else is using a name that's similar or close to doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't use it, but you just want to be aware what's out there. But this is the number one important step that many businesses don't take. The number two is your choice of business entity. How are you going to operate? And there are basically three options. A partnership is a business entity, but I don't recommend that for a lot of reasons, and if you want to talk to me about that, we can talk about it. But your basic three options are, I'm going to start at the bottom here. Sole proprietor. That's just you doing business by yourself, and you file your DBA, your business trade name, with the Secretary of State, unless it's your own business name. Like in my example, Susan Burns, I don't need to file my own name. If I were just doing business as that, I don't need to file. But if I was doing business as best lawyer in town, then I have to file with the Secretary of State. The sole proprietor is not one that I recommend very often, and we'll discuss that in the next slide on how to decide what to pick. But your two basic options are a limited liability company or an S corporation, which is really a corporation, and then you file an election with the IRS to be taxed as an S corp. These two entities are what's called pass-through entities. So all the profit and loss is passed through to you. So there are a number of considerations that go into deciding which entity to use. And I am going to jump around on this list. So I'm not going to go in order, but tax issues is one of the things that you want to consider. So, for example, if you're married and you think your business in the beginning is going to operate at a loss, say you're going to have $20,000 loss in the first year, you can offset that loss against your spouse's income. So that's a good thing. But these are all these factors you want to think through before you decide on your business entity. You know, how many people are going to be in your business? Is it you and one other person? Is it just you? What's your business plan? Do you want the business continue on? And I mean, are you young and you want to keep doing this business for the next 40 years? Do you want to sell it in 3 years? Do you want to pass it on to your children? How are you going to fund it? Are you going to try to raise money through investment? What's your expected revenue? If you're one of the disadvantages of these entities of being self-employed is you pay self-employment tax. At a certain level of income, if you're an S corporation, you pay yourself as an employee, so you would save money at a certain level of income because you wouldn't have to be paying the self-employed as a self-employed person. So you save about close to 8%. So it gets a little bit complicated. It's a little more than we have time to talk to, but these are all things you want to think of. Will you have employees? Now, here you'll see in number 2, I have risk factors, and the last consideration, I have risk factors. In my opinion, risk factors and tax issues are the 2 most important things, with risk factors being one. When you're operating a business, your personal assets are on the line. So if something goes wrong, somebody can sue you personally and go after whatever you own. And there are exceptions to that too, but generally your personal assets are exposed. The reason people either form a corporation or form an LLC is because that's a business entity, and the business entity operates like a shield or a moat around you, the castle, to protect you from exposure to personal liability, either from being sued or for business debts if things don't go well. What I want to say is that one big mistake I see is people form an LLC or an S Corp, and that's all they do. They register with the Secretary of State and the IRS, and that's all they do. They don't go through the steps, all the rest of the steps that there are that you need to take to make sure you protect yourself from liability and exposure to personal liability. Because we're on a short time leash here, I'm going to invite you to go to Small Business Legal School and opt into the mailing list, and then you'll receive, it's on the tab called Free Legal Advice. You can opt in there and you will receive my top 10 list of must-haves to protect yourself from exposure to personal liability. So there you'll see all the things that I recommend that you do. So that is a critical piece. So I thought I had another slide here, but I don't. So anyway, those are the things that you want to consider in what type of entity. So don't take that lightly. It's a critical decision. The number 3 thing is contracts. Contracts serve 2 purposes, in my opinion. One is you're clarifying your relationship, and the second is, as time goes on, memories differ on what we agreed on. So in 3 months, something will come up, and I'll say to Deanna, no, remember we agreed on this? And she'll say, no, we agreed the other way. Well, what did we agree? If we have a contract in writing, that's our memory. So we know what we agreed on. So also the clarity part of it, if you force yourself to put your contracts in writing, it will save you time and money, and it also can save relationships. Going through the time to write down your agreement with somebody makes you think through a lot of issues that you wouldn't have thought about otherwise. And when Deanna and I started working on putting this webinar together, we did that. I'm a big stickler for that. Why? Because I myself have done things on a handshake with people. We'd both trusted each other. It wasn't that we were bad people, but we both had different understandings of what the relationship was, ends up in disaster. So one of the most critical things you can do and respectful things to do is to put your agreements in writing. It saves a lot. So a lot of people are like, well, contracts, it's complicated. Well, it can be complicated, and it's not something you want to do yourself, but just the basic elements. And I'm sure you've all signed contracts without knowing what you were signing. We do it a lot when we do things online. We're subscribed to some list, and you agree to everything. Do you read all the fine print? I'm guessing not. But in your day-to-day business operations, I strongly encourage you to have a relationship with a lawyer that you establish that can help you draft your contracts. But the basic elements are, who are the parties? Why are we here? So let's just say Deanna and I were writing a contract. I would say, she's Deanna, I'm Susan. Why are we here? We both want to do a webinar. She has expertise in one area, I have expertise in another area, and we think that our backgrounds work together and will be beneficial to people. So what is each of us doing? Well, we're going to do 6 secret elements. She's going to do 3. I'm going to do 3. So if I were hiring her, what's being provided in exchange? Am I paying her? If I'm paying her, when am I paying her, and how am I paying her? What happens if I don't pay her? Or what happens if she says she's going to talk about 3 elements and she only talks about 2, and I've advertised that she's talking about 3? Or what if I don't do what I said I was going to do? And how long is our contract? Does it go on forever? Is it a month? Is it just for this one time? Are we going to do a series of webinars? Are we going to charge for a webinar? If we are, do we split? Who pays for what? Talk all those things through and then write them down. And you can write that down via email, but it's just important, and you'll be surprised when you start doing this, even if you're not documenting the contract yourself and having a lawyer do it, which I recommend. But just as you email exchange with people, you'll be surprised about what comes up and what you think about that you didn't think about before. And it really saves a lot of conflict later. The time to work things through is before you start the relationship, when everybody's happy. And for sure you want to have your signature block and the date of the agreement. That goes in every contract. The signature block thing that's key is, if you're an LLC or an S-Corp, make sure you sign not as yourself personally, but as the LLC president or the S-Corp president. Critical. There are a lot of other elements of a contract, and you have to understand the terminology, but you want to talk about confidentiality, intellectual property. If it's a product or service, like Deanna said, she provides, this many half-hour consultations. You want to know, like, if it's a product, what's the quality, how many widgets, when are they provided, like what size, and all that. And then also, if you get someplace and you're saying, hey, this isn't exactly what I asked for, this isn't what I thought I was getting, what do? You want to address that. So if either one of us is dissatisfied, what do? Let's say Deanna and I entered into a contract to provide, that we agreed we're going to do 5 webinars a month and on certain topics. Well, that's not a good example because it doesn't work for this. But let's just say we did that. What if I say, you know what, it's too much for me, I can't do that many? Then, so think that through, talk it through. So what if one of us is dissatisfied with what happens and we want out, or how are we going to work that?
Can I interject something on that too?
Sure.
That oftentimes, and this is something that in a lot of people that I work with, is people will barter services, and that's something that I've seen time and time again, that it's like having the expectations, even contracts, just laying out the expectations is never a bad idea. So that it's an equal exchange. It seems like in this business, that happens quite a bit, is people will barter different services. So what are the legalities of that, but even just managing people's, what are the hours, is this ongoing, is this month? Having that in black and white is always a very good idea to do. No, it doesn't necessarily, something, just, again, managing expectations. So.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and that is my own personal situation where I got in a lot of trouble. We bartered, and it was a great, was a great relationship. At first, we both owned our own business. She needed legal work. I needed what she had. So we met and we talked about what we were going to do. We didn't write it down. I could have drafted a contract for free, for crying out loud. But I was just going along being a busy business person like everybody else. We had a total misunderstanding of what the other person was doing. Totally. And I cannot tell you sitting here today how that happened, but it did. And so it ends up that I didn't even, it would have been so worth taking the time to do it. And even if I had to pay somebody, because I ended up not getting what I wanted in the first place, a relationship destroyed. And, it's a small community here, so that makes it difficult. And then, I lost all that time dealing with it.
Right.
So it's a super critical thing to just the clarity, going back to that, one of the basic elements, one of the reasons you have a contract, clarity and memory, clarity and memory. If that's all you remember, clarity and memory, have those. The other thing is, don't do this at home. Filling in the blanks on a downloaded contract, don't do it. I have seen many clients in my office who have come to me with, okay, now I'm in this trouble. Here's a contract. Where did you get the contract? Well, I downloaded it. It's their own download. Okay. Yeah, and we signed it. Did you read this paragraph 3 where it says that you're going to do? Well, yeah, I didn't really understand what that meant. Oh, really? Smart. But, people are trying to cut corners, and we all do our best, but I'm telling you, please don't do that. And I don't, as a small business owner myself, I understand the pressure of trying to get everything done and the time constraints and the pressure for money and all that, but don't do your own contracts off the internet. It's not a good idea. So, and I also want to say, when I go to continuing legal education seminars, they provide us with forms. This is a form contract not a form contract, but here's an example of a contract if I'm talking to you about indemnification clauses, for an example, in construction. Here's an example of a contract I've used, but they will say, don't use the contract, the template, and don't use source documents. Don't use provisions without reading it. So they even warn us. So we're getting advice from other lawyers, and they say, don't just use this. Don't lift it and use it. So it applies to everyone. So now we have, 2 minutes for Q&A. Whoops. So that's not a very long time, but if anybody has a question they want to ask, and I just want to say my contact information is down below here on the lower right. You can call me at my office, or my email is susan@susanburnslegal.com.
Well, that was a great presentation that opened my eyes to some different things that it's like, oh, shoot, I wonder if I need to work on some of that stuff too. So we may be chatting, Susan.
Well, I hope so, because the answer is always yes, you do need to work on it.
Yes. So, yep, it opened my eyes to some different things as well. So, awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, they can raise their hand and I'll unmute them, or you can type them in the message box. I can tell you that one of the things the questions that I get from people is, it's just me and Deanna. It's just my friend. Why do I need a contract? Or, I'm going into business with my friend. We've been in business for years together. Why do we need a contract? And again, it's the thing that Deanna just mentioned. It's about clarity and talking things through and understanding where everybody is, and boundaries too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess we're at an hour, and it doesn't look like people have questions. So,
Well,
Deanna?
this was fun. Yeah, hearing exiting or entering. So. Well, this was a lot of fun. I hope that there was some good, valuable content that people that got on them. You've got both of our contact information, so please reach out if you have any specific questions or, also I should have said that I offer free business consultations, which I did not say. So if you just wanted to, have some questions on that, feel free to, go on my website and you can register or email me for that.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Everybody have a good day.